Thanks for joining us today. We're with Amy Gordinier, who is the founder and CEO of Skinfix. And Skinfix is a brand that's really renowned for putting the skin barrier first and being an early pioneer of clinical beauty. She's also an industry veteran with over 20 years experience working at L'Oreal, Estee Lauder companies, and Joe Malone at one point predicted that Amy would one day own her own brand. Today's Skinfix is a favorite among Sephora customers, recommended by dermatologists everywhere. We're excited to bring Amy back to the show after our conversation 2 years ago to see where she's at and where she's going next.
Yeah, well, first of all, big congratulations for winning the Indie Award for the Cosmetic Executive Women Best Skincare Product. This was new news announced recently in New York City, and at the time of this recording, it's fall 2023. And so we just want to acknowledge that and say congratulations. So many exciting mile markers and wins that have happened from a long foundation that you've built. So we'll dive more into that, but wanted to at least acknowledge that right at the start here of the conversation.
Thank you. We were so excited. I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I was in Montreal, and Virginie, our president, was there with our private equity partner, and they were texting me, and I'm like, no, you're kidding. It isn't true. But it was a formidable group of competitors. And honestly, we didn't expect to win, and we were just super blown away and grateful. So very excited about that.
Yeah, incredible. Well, hand clap over here for you.
Thanks.
So with Amy, with everything that's going on in your life right now, personally and professionally, like what's giving you energy? What do you look to right now? What's
good question. I mean, it's actually a work project, believe it or not, but we are embarking on really our first ever kind of formal brand campaign. So as advertising folks, you'll appreciate this, but my background and training is in marketing. I started at L'Oreal and then was in Lauder, and we're really diving in. We're doing a television campaign, which is launching late in December, which really talks about our brand and our barrier technology, and specifically our new patented technology. And we're looking at just really magnifying that in all channels. And so it's traditional brand marketing, and I'm just loving it. It's strategic and creative and fun.
It's taking you back to your roots of what you used to do a lot of, it sounds like.
Yeah. It's, I feel like we've arrived, we're finally big enough to actually do some traditional marketing and pull some traditional levers. And it's, I think it's going to be a game changer for the brand. So
when you go into that, I mean, ROI is such a big thing now. You want to make sure it's money well spent. Like, what are your expectations for something like that? When you talk about a big brand campaign, what do you hope, I guess, if you look back on it, 6 months, a year later, and you go, yeah, that was a win. What does a win look like there?
Yeah, I mean, as you'll know, it's really tough to derive a direct ROI from something like television, but there are clearly expectations in terms of lift in sales that we'll be looking for. But also we do a brand health survey once a year. We're actually going to be doing it twice a year next year. And we'll be looking specifically at our awareness metrics and looking for a pretty significant jump there, and also brand clarity metrics. So do people really understand the Skinfix proposition and point of difference? And can they associate our brand with the correct sort of description, one-line description of what we stand for? So we do have some pretty clear and quantifiable ROI metrics associated with this campaign.
I want to talk a little bit about you kind of as an evolving leader. And you were on our podcast in 2021, the Empowered Challenger podcast, and we got to talk. I just want to talk about you as an evolving leader. And, a couple of years have passed since we've had a chance to talk. And I referenced, we did a little pre-call yesterday. I referenced that book that's titled What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So
yes.
You're always evolving. What's that evolution look like from your seat?
Yeah, I love that. What got you here won't get you there. And, I've had so many conversations with investors over the years where they've said like the team and the structure that gets you from say 0 to 20 million isn't going to get you from 20 to 50 and 50 to 100. And we're definitely at that phase of our trajectory as a brand. So we've really gotten some significant scale over the last 2 years. And we brought in a president for the first time about a year ago. And it's been a game changer in terms of just really recognizing that the size of the business needed more resource. And specifically, she comes from Caudalie, which is a top 5 skincare brand at Sephora. She built Caudalie in Brazil and Mexico and the US, and she's brilliant and awesome, and she's a phenomenal leader for the team. So she's taken a ton of the day-to-days off of me, and we've really worked closely to sort of divide and conquer. It was clear that that's what's needed to get us to this next milestone.
So what does that mean for you? Like, how does your average day change? Because I mean, president, that was your title for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I'm still founder CEO. So my
Yeah.
title didn't change, but my job did, which is almost the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I get to still be CEO, but I have a lot of help now. I really am focused on product development. Has stayed with me and is really, and commercialization, I would say, sort of a lot of the operations of the business I enjoy and are still under my direct kind of purview. And I really have more time to be more strategic and think more thoughtfully about not only product development, but also kind of the brand positioning and storytelling and how and where we're going to do that. I spend a lot of time training Sephora BAs and doing as many of these kinds of things, podcasts and speaking engagements to really get the brand story out there and thinking about how to amplify that. And we're working on some projects to amplify that, which I have more time to do. So it's been fantastic. I mean, we're really good partners. I think our skills are perfectly complementary. She's really detail oriented and I'm really like in the clouds. And it's just, it's great. I'm very lucky to have found such a perfect partner.
You always hear people say, oh, you need to be working on the business, not in the business. And it's such an eye roll when you're like grinding and you have so many hats. And it's like, yeah, I look forward to that. But it sounds like that's what's happened here. You're actually
totally
doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really working on the business and it feels so good. So great.
Yeah, exactly. So on that, I just want to circle back a little bit to the positioning and the campaign and like, what have you been able to kind of zero in on your story that's been, I don't know, probably either refreshed or just reemphasized, but just like, tell us a little bit about that, the story of Skinfix today and what you want people to know.
Yeah. So, for 10 years, we've been focused on skin barrier health, pretty maniacally focused. Because day one, when I discovered this formula in Nova Scotia, the first thing I did was take it to a dermatologist and say, this thing seems to have a lot of efficacy for dermatitis. What do you think? Is there, legitimacy in building a natural product, a clean product to treat eczema? And the first thing that she started to talk about was barrier health. And I was like, what does that mean? So really from the get-go, I understood that barrier health was at the root of all skin issues and that barrier health is really kind of the most important thing when it comes to skin health. And that wasn't something that consumers talked about 10 years ago or that buyers at retailers understood 10 years ago. But we were so aligned with the dermatology community from the get-go that we always talked about it. So this is a moment where now barrier health is very much a part of the vernacular. I think it's the number 4 skin concern for Sephora clients. It's really having a moment. And we are now able to go out with a campaign that speaks to that and speaks to our heritage and our 10 years of science. And we have a new patented technology for barrier health, which is a first in this category. So the campaign is really focused on that, which is exciting and amazing and is really the timing is right for us to really own that space.
To own it and let people know that you were the pioneers there. It's really a credit to you. I was at an event last night here in Austin. It was the SKU showcase, SKU, but SKU is a CPG accelerator here in Austin, and we've worked, a lot of really great brands have gone through SKU, and I've had the chance to be a mentor for SKU. So I went to the showcase last night and got to see all the pitches. It was kind of like a night of Shark Tank, right? And there was one. Now I'm going to mess this up because the way it's spelled and the way it's said are different. But do you say salve, or salve, S-A-L-V, like a salve?
Yeah.
What
salve.
do you call salve? Okay, but there's like an L in there. That's okay.
Yeah.
Salve. So she has her hero product is a salve, and she got to do her pitch, and her whole thing was about sensitive skin and the skin barrier. She kept saying the skin barrier over and over and over, and I was like, okay, that's what Amy's been talking about. That is Skinfix. That is what you all pioneered, and that's just credit to you guys because that's like the up and comers. They're stepping right into that, and I guess that's good news, bad news for you, right?
I mean, it's always the way, isn't it? It's sometimes being a first mover means that you're going to spend all the time and money. The fast followers are going to benefit, but it also means that we're doing something right, that we actually created a category that has legs, which is also pretty exciting and meaningful.
Well, you've put so many wins on the board in your dynamic career, and we would love to hear from you. What is your favorite failure?
There's so many, Bethany, but for me,
easy question.
For me, yeah, right. It's like, how long do you have? For me, I think starting the company here in Nova Scotia, I was a little naive in the sense that I had what I think is an admirable goal, which was to just build a team here of people that did not know anything about beauty or anything about any of the retailers we were selling to. And I was like, we'll figure it out. We'll do it differently because we don't have any preconceived notions of how it should be done. And ultimately, I think that was a mistake. I think you can have an element of that in your business for sure. There are a lot of founders in beauty that have no beauty background and they're really successful as a result. And they're really successful because of that, because they don't have preconceived notions, but you also need experts. And I think we would have gone a lot faster and probably spent a lot less money if we had some more expertise, at the table, specifically when you're dealing with retailers. I would say, you both work with a lot of consumer packaged goods companies. If you're launching at Target, you need somebody on your team who's a Target expert. I mean, it sounds so obvious, but I didn't think it was that necessary. And I think it also speaks to the fact that I didn't have a lot of experience in sales. I was a marketing person. So it was a big mistake. Having experts in our business that know Sephora inside and out has been a game changer. And our team now is really built of beauty industry experts. Alexa, who's on this call with us, and a lot of our team have come from competitive brands, and it definitely makes things faster and easier for sure.
Truth be told, maybe at that time there weren't the full resources to get. There's a lot of things you'd love to have, right? But it also takes a financial investment and resources. And I'm giving you an out, Amy. I'm basically saying,
but that's true.
Great.
Thank you, Prentice. But also, too, we were based in Nova Scotia, and this was before the world of virtual work, too. So to your point, who was going to move to Nova Scotia from New York or LA with beauty experience? And also, did we have the resources to actually hire those people? It's very, very true. But I think it's something for people to consider when they're actually launching into this space. It's really competitive, and I would say make sure you can invest in some expertise just to give yourself a better probability of success.
It is so competitive and it is so crowded. And I may have mentioned this when we talked last, but my daughter, I have two girls, but one of them's 14, one of them's 15. The 14-year-old takes me on Sephora tours. People will say, spend time with your kids doing what they want to do. And I always love that. But I will be like, Mars, what do you want to do? She goes, let's go to Sephora. I'm going to show you everything. So she takes me on a little tour, and I'm a marketing guy, so I actually kind of enjoy it. I'm a girl's dad. It's just amazing how much is packed into that space of so many things. And my point in saying all this is, tell me how you've handled that. And one thing I know you do is you have Total Skin Nerds, which is a podcast. So you're always educating. You're always out front talking about how skin is treated and healed and everything. But as it's gotten more crowded and you've had a target on your back, just what are some things you've done to deal with that?
Yeah, such a good point. From the get-go with Sephora, we launched at Sephora in April of 2019. And from the start, they were really good at coaching me to say, don't pay attention to the competition. You have something very special and very different here. And we want you because of that difference. Don't try to be like everyone else. Just because everyone else is launching a vitamin C doesn't mean you should launch a vitamin C. Stay true to your brand DNA. Stay true to what you guys are focused on. And they've said that every year since. And Artemis Patrick, who's the CEO of Sephora North America, has a famous phrase, which is JOMO, the joy of missing out. So she talks about how in this category, it's really important not to be paying too much attention to the competition. Sure, you kind of have to have a sense. Someone on your team, your social team, needs to know what competitors are doing, et cetera. But for founders in particular, there needs to be also an element of just get your head down and be convicted in your idea. Because if you're constantly trying to pivot your brand to catch the latest trend, you're not really standing for anything at all. So she always talks about JOMO and that brands really should have the joy of missing out. Just focus on what you're doing and not what everyone else is doing. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. That's
Mm-hmm.
really neat. Our audience is primarily, marketing executives with a challenger spirit looking to like do something in their space. I mean, you're really a pioneer in the beauty industry for sure. You just talked about, I guess, kind of like a constancy to purpose, being focused, and I think there's always a temptation to do more at any given time because you can, but it doesn't mean you should. Do you feel like you ever struggled with that as you were, disrupting and coming up, like trying to do too much at once?
Yes, such a good point on all fronts. I mean, from the product perspective, I'm a product person and I love making product. And so I had this massive pipeline of I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do the other thing, from everything from like pain management products to scar healing. I mean, there was just like, it was endless. And Sephora, again, to their credit, when we launched with them, said we want no new products for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Build your
Hmm.
heroes. Nothing
Wow.
new. We don't want to hear it from you. We don't want to see it. And I was like, what am I going to do all day? Like, I'm not going to have a job. But we did. They said, what do you think your hero product is? We said, it's triple lipid peptide cream for these reasons. They said, go do it, go make it happen. And, it's a massive SKU. It's the number 2 moisturizer at Sephora North America. And then now we're building off the heritage of that SKU, and that's really put us, on the map. And this next year that we're going into, we're actually not launching a ton of newness. Again, we've launched a bunch of newness the last 2 years, and now we're really doubling down on, from a marketing perspective, you can't support 6 launches a year. You're just not going to break through with anything. So our focus this year, our theme for the company for 24 is simplify to amplify. So really just doubling down on, okay, we have 1 breakaway hero product. We have 3 on the bench, but they need to start to break away too. We need to be, we need 4 heroes. So we're really focusing on building those heroes this year and not innovation. So, and then in terms of marketing support too, it's about, okay, our private equity at our last board meeting said, Amy, there's usually 2 levers that work for a brand. If you look at like Tatcha, for instance, was a brand they were invested in. They were like, it was this combination of organic influencer love for the founder. And I think in their case, it was probably QVC as well. For another brand, it was the combination of QVC, that on-air awareness building, and the sales team in store. And so they're like, what are your 2 things? Figure out what those 2 things are. We think we have a good idea of what they are, and then double down on those and don't try to do absolutely everything because you're just not breaking through.
Mm-hmm. How many SKUs do you have now total?
I think we have about 24 total, but we launched with 21 SKUs because we were already a brand that had a portfolio. So really net new. We've done a lot of renovations of SKUs, which is, indies really have that ability and prerogative to just reformulate things that big companies would never do. We tweak things, we improve things. So, and then sometimes we do a 1 in, 1 out because we just don't want too much choice. We don't want to overwhelm the client. So we haven't created that many net new SKUs in the last 4 years.
Shifting gears, Bethany, I think we want to talk about the idea of putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something Prentice and I talk about a lot too. Just how do we show up with, I call it all bars on green. Like, what do I need to do in life to be able to show up to this call or to, whatever meeting I have coming up with a full tank, with all bars on green, which sounds lofty sometimes, especially when you're in the thick of building something as we all are in our respective areas. But with Skinfix, a brand that prioritizes healthy skin, I'd love to hear, how do you prioritize your own health every day?
Yeah, I mean, there are really 2 things that to me are sort of my non-negotiables. And one, like a lot of people, is some form of exercise, some form of movement. If you're into astrology, anyone who's listening, I have a Sagittarius moon and a Sagittarius rising, and I'm a Gemini. I need to move, or I just I can't, I need to kind of expel, and ideally through some sort of cardio. So for me, even if it's 10 minutes on my Peloton, I just need that. And then for me, I know it sounds corny, but my gratitude practice, if there's one thing I do every day, it's my gratitude journal. It's the 3 things I'm grateful for. If I have the chance at night to kind of complete it with another sort of 3 great things that happened today, I find it just totally shifts my perspective. I mean, to a really noticeable degree. When I don't do it, I am in a different mind space. So those are kind of my two little like must do's.
People can kind of go, oh yeah, sure, I've heard that. But it's like if you do those things every single day for a week, right? It's a total shift. I put on my calendar, like you talk about calendar blocking and really trying to own your day. Like I was talking to a friend, he said, well, is it on your calendar? I said, no, it's just something I need to do. He's like, no, it needs to be on your calendar. So I have first thing in the morning very early, it just says M&M, which is movement and meditation. But if like I find time for that every single day, total game changer. It really is such a shift. So whether that's meditation or stillness or gratitude, but just having that, I guess, Naval Ravikant, who's a great thought leader, in his book, he just said he sits just still. It's not, he didn't even call it meditation. It's just sitting still for an hour a day with his eyes closed. And it's amazing what bubbles up and what surfaces and what you can work through. But yeah, so it's all that pretty powerful.
That's great. Yeah, Prentice and I yesterday we're speaking about how like self-care, if you will, is not just a line item on the budget. Like it is the budget. It's the whole, it's your full-time job to care for yourself so that you can show up and do the respective things and then check off the priority list. So that's really practical to hear those two things that you mentioned, even if it's 10 minutes of movement. And then that gratitude practice is significant. So this is kind of what I had in mind to ask you, that which is similar to what you've just shared, but a little bit of a different angle, is what's one area that you're committed to growing in lately? Like, is there a specific area of life that you've just kind of zoomed in and wanted to see some signs of growth there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm learning a lot about how to lead. It's not natural for me. I'm a little bit of a loner and I'm a little bit of an ideas person. So my president, Virginie, is a total people person. I mean, we did this whole process, personality study or whatever, where you get a color, and I was green, which is like super strategic and like a big ideas person, but not very good with other people all the time. And she's a red, which is heart led, which is like, I'm mind led. She's heart led. So she's really good with people. And I'm learning so much from watching her. Because, you know, I'll turn up to a meeting just like grouchy because I'm kind of moody and I'm like, nah. And she's just like, it's so important, Amy, that you turn up with good energy because your energy impacts everyone. I mean, it's so logical, but it's just not something I'm good at. You know, I'm not good at managing my energy all the time. So I'm starting to really understand how important that is as a leader, to really just be mindful before every meeting of like, what is my intention for this meeting? What is the energy I want to bring to this meeting? How can I speak in a way that is calm and constructive and like motivating? And I'm not a natural leader. I wouldn't be hired as a CEO by another company. You know, I'm only here because I started the business. It's true. So it's just one of my weaknesses and something that I'm really happy to have somebody who is so good at it to learn from on a daily basis.
You know what's cool though is like that you're just admitting that and saying it, because what happens is early in our career, whatever our weaknesses are, we try to just like sweep under the rug and hopefully they don't get noticed. I feel like as you get on with your career, you really like can embrace and just like be what you are and not worry about. I mean, of course you want to overcome things and get better, but like just lean into what you do best and not try to like, and I think that that's the journey that you're talking about is what a lot of brands go through. It's like there's a visionary leader, there's someone that starts it and then it matures, but like you still have something so special as the founder and CEO to bring each day. It may not be what your president brings, but I mean, I think that's what's cool is just acknowledging that and like just saying it, you know, saying that out loud is good.
And when I don't have good stuff to bring, maybe stay out of the meetings. When you're feeling like you can't bring it, Amy, don't come, you know? No, I'm kidding. But
so transparent and so relatable though, as Prentice said to our audience, just in kind of leadership 101, you know, we can all grow in that specific area. I think there's some natural born qualities or maybe some that are perceived to be favorable over others, but that's such a practical way to think about growing in leadership. So thank you. Yeah, for sharing that.
Yeah. Amy, I want to ask you, and maybe this is just top of mind because of that event I was at last night. It was all the judges or the investors at the tables. They all go, well, you got to be really clear on what your exit strategy is. What does that look like? What's the vision for, what's the end look like? Begin with the end in mind. And so for you, as much as you're willing to share, like, how do you think about what the end looks like for you at Skinfix? Or are you not even in that mind space right now?
I would disagree with that advice, honestly. I
Go
think a
for it.
lot of founders do begin with the end, and I think that's their downfall. I think for many years I was so focused on the end that it just is, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, first of all, does every business have to exit? Like there are businesses that people own for
No.
generations. Caudalie, for instance, the brand that Virginie came from, has been owned by 30 years by the founders whose children are now involved in the brand, and they have no intention of ever selling that business. Why do we have to have that, as part of our expectation? Maybe you're going to really love the category and the brand, and you're going to want to have it for generations, and it's going to be a lifestyle brand that supports you and your family. And maybe that's good enough. Or maybe it's just really important to you that you build a headquarters in Austin, Texas, because you're from there and you want to be there and you want to bring the beauty category or whatever category to Austin, Texas. I don't know. I think sometimes we get too wrapped up in this, and there's a lot of bodies in the graveyard. Not a lot of people make it to that big exit. And I think a lot of it is because we're too focused on it. Our private equity investor who came in 2 years ago, once you take private equity, let's face it, there should be some form of exit because that's what they're in it for. But they're like, do not focus on it. We do not want to talk about it. It is not important. Like, we got it. We know what the metrics need to look like. And we're going to make sure you guys are tracking, and we're going to, help guide you. But we don't want you thinking about it. We don't want you talking about it. I have meetings with strategic investors because just from a relationship perspective, it's a good thing to do. But I try not to talk about it too much with the team because it's just distracting. And I think if you start a business because you want to get wealthy, it's probably going to do more harm than good.
I love that. Well, I appreciate that. I think that makes a ton of sense. It sounds like you have a good private equity partners, because I don't feel like that's always the encouragement you would get.
No, we have amazing private equity partners, Stride Consumer Partners, who are in 4 verticals. They do food, they do activewear, they do beauty, and then they do I forget what they call it, but they do Jenny's ice cream, stores, for lack of a better, I don't know what the term is, but they're just amazing. We're really lucky. When I talk to other founders who have private equity partners, there's a lot of really good ones. And there's some that are just more kind of financially minded. These guys are operators. They've got a marketing team that supports us, like running our D2C right now, for instance. They've got finance people that support us. They're brilliant. They've got huge Rolodexes, and they're just nice people. I'm learning a lot about leadership from them as well. So we're lucky.
Yep, that's fantastic. Great. Well, I'm going to kind of close with a selfish question, because you said you're a Gemini and I'm a Gemini too. So what do I need to know? It sounds like you you follow this pretty closely, but
And I am too.
Are you a Gemini?
Are you really?
Marketing attracts a lot of Geminis. It's Gemini rules marketing. So, it makes sense in that sense. I mean, it's so hard for me, Prentice, because I'm really into astrology. Like, I've been studying it since my teens. I wrote my junior paper in university about astrology. I was a comparative religion major. And I've been studying under an astrologer for 15 years. So it's so much more than your sun sign. It is really a complex, thousands of year old science that has been used by world leaders. And, I think it was sort of undermined, and people tried to sort of demean astrology. And now it's become, it's a little more popular now, but for a while it was a little bit of a joke, which is too bad because it's really powerful science. But yeah, Gemini, I mean, on the surface, it's, we are ideas people. We are the people that kind of know a little about a lot. As a Mercury ruled sign, we're very curious and we're really quick-minded. So we absorb a lot of information, but we don't want to go too deep. We're and my president is a Virgo, also a Mercury ruled sign, but Virgo wants to go deep. My son has a lot of Virgo. They want to go deep. They want to know everything. They want to do the research. And I'm kind of like, I know enough. I'm good. So we're a perfect balance in that regard. But Geminis you're in the perfect industry, both of you. People. I mean, socially, in a work context, I'm a bit of a loner, but doing a podcast is a Gemini activity. Rules all forms of communication.
I love it. So what's like your favorite resource for getting, learning about astrology, I guess? in general?
So I have two. My astrologer is Deborah Young
Mm.
Astrology on Facebook and Instagram. She's phenomenal and she does daily content that I find is really helpful. And then I love Chani Nicholas, Chani, all caps. She
Cool.
has an amazing app. You just plug in your details and you get really good information. And she has written a book called You Were Born for This. It's a very simple synopsis of kind of your chart. So anyway,
Well,
it's my passion.
I love that. A lot of companies might do like culture index or something else, to see where you're a fit in the company and your personality type. But Skinfix, it's astrology,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
Gemini. Yeah, that's cool. So
We
lot
do
to
use
learn.
astrology. Yeah, it's very helpful. It allows you to sort of
Yeah.
have an insight, be compassionate, understand where somebody's strong and where their challenges are. So it's not dissimilar from other types of sort of modalities to understand people in a work context.
Well, Amy, you are an amazing leader. Whether you think so or not, I'm telling you, you are. You're a great marketer, and
Oh, thanks,
just watching the
Prentice.
trajectory of the brand over the last couple of years from afar has been just amazing. And just the opportunity to sit down with you again and hear the story and hear how far you've come is incredible. So we wish
Oh,
you nothing but good things as you get this new campaign launched and with what's to come.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Both Prentice and Bethany, great to be
Yes.
chatting with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.